All right, now before you all come at me in the comments with torches and pitchforks, watch the entire video. Then come back and yell at me. Let me start by saying, as a wind player, your sound is your most important musical quality. It's something that I've worked on more than anything else in my own saxophone playing, and it's what I'm most happy with, and I think it's the strongest part of my own playing. In general, there are three main reasons why you would do long tones. One is to improve the intonation on each note. Two is to build stamina with your air and your embouchure, and three is to improve your tone quality. I do believe all three of these things are incredibly important to having a great sound and being a really good wind player. By the way, in this video I'm going to talk about saxophone playing specifically, but I guess it really applies to any wind instrument. Now, like I said, all these things are great and they're great to practice, but I really have an issue with the way a lot of people tell other people to practice it, and a lot of people have taught their students to practice it, and I have to fix a lot of these issues in my own lessons with these students. Now, to me, the most important part about having a quality sound on the instrument is being able to do so consistently while moving between notes on the instrument, not just sitting on one note for as long as you can. I know a lot of people out there, and a lot of students in particular, that can hold one single note for a long time with a nice sound in tune before it wavers, and they got a great long tone on that one note. The problem is, once they start playing melodies and improvising, doing large intervals especially, the intonation goes out the window, the tone goes out the window, because they haven't practiced it in context. And that's the key here. I hear that when they jump up specifically, their embouchure is late catching up, so the beginning of the note is flat. They're not adding enough air when they jump to these other notes, so it's unsupported in the beginning until they can get it evened out. Yeah, sure, if they hold it for 8 beats or something, it's going to sound great for beats 3 through 8. But beats 1 and 2, it's not there, and when you're playing a moving line, you don't have 3 beats to play every single note. The most common way that I've seen long tones taught, and it's my biggest issue with them, is to sit there and play one note with the tuner as long as you can until the sound wavers. As soon as the sound starts wavering, you stop, and that's your length of quality sound. The thought process behind this is that when you're just playing a single tone, you can focus only on your air, your embouchure, the intonation, and hold it out really long and really focus those things. And sure, that's great. But the problem is, if you never incorporate that with moving around to other notes and playing melodies and improvising while focusing on that, you're never going to train yourself to be able to think about those things at the same time. You have to get to the point where you're not even thinking about playing in tune or with a good sound, so you can focus on improvising or playing that song that's in 6 sharps in front of you or whatever. All of these just do long tones people are telling you to separate sound from playing, and I think that's a big mistake. I always teach everything in context, no matter what I'm working on, whether it's improvising, scales, working on time, intonation, rhythm, anything. I always try to teach it in context, or at least with something else, to be teaching those skills of doing multiple things at once. I want well-rounded musicians who can actually think and do a lot of things and not get flustered when you start adding a million things. And if you're playing a song, like I said, with 6 sharps in 5/4, and you have really high notes and jump into low notes, I don't want you to be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I've seen so many people play with a beautiful sound on a ballad, or they're playing a written part and it sounds beautiful, and then they get up to improvise or something and their sound goes out the window. Why? Because they don't have it ingrained in them, and they haven't practiced doing sound while doing these other things and while improvising, and nobody's been checking on their tone or their intonation or their embouchure or whatever while improvising or while doing whatever. So they're not going to be able to do it. So what are some exercises that I have the students do? Let's start with intonation. One way to do this is to play something, preferably a melody or something written, very slowly. Now you can play a ballad, or you can take any kind of exercise or etude or another melody and slow it down.
Slow it down.
What you're going to want to do is pick one random note. I like to pick a note that I jump up to when I'm working with students, because that's where I see a lot of the issues. So what you want to do is pick that one random note for the student or for yourself or whoever, and say, when I get there, as soon as I hit the note, I'm going to hold it and stare at the tuner. Okay, have your tuner on your stand or wherever. And what I want you to do, and what I want you to tell the students to do, or if you're teaching the lesson, maybe you look at the tuner instead, is soon as you hit the note, you need to watch the beginning of the tuner. I know that you can play a note in tune after holding it for 3 seconds or 4 seconds. How is your intonation? How is your sound when you first hit that note? So let's take the song Misty. I'll play the melody there, and we'll see how it works. So I'm going to play the beginning of the melody. I'm going to stop on the C, concert C, A for alto, and we're going to see what's going on there. See that note right there? A lot of people that I've heard end up doing this. Or something, maybe not that egregious, but their embouchure is late. They're not used to quickly moving from that lower note, which is a B flat, up to the higher note. It's a jump of a major seventh. Adam Larson has a great book out called Leaps and Sounds, and it deals with, well, a lot of different things, and it's a really amazing book. You should go check it out. But one of the things it deals with is large intervals. And not only just the technique of large intervals, but if you're focusing on intonation, tone quality, breath support, embouchure, while you're doing the large intervals, it's really it's great, and it's worth it just for that, on top of the million other reasons why the book is amazing. So if you find some patterns in your students' playing or your own playing where you jump up to the note and you're a little flat in the beginning, or you're a little sharp in the beginning, or you're biting a little too much, watch that tuner, it'll tell you, and then you can adjust accordingly. Another good one is to do arpeggios in inversions. Now you can do this in a number of different ways. This is just kind of what I like to do. And once again, I focus on a lot of things with the students. I focus on actually playing the notes of the major arpeggios or minor arpeggios or whatever we're doing, as well as time, use a metronome. We're also working on our intonation, our tone quality, our breath support, all these things, our articulation. What I mean by this is you're basically going to take a major arpeggio. I'll start on my C, concert E flat, and we're going to do it in root position, first inversion, second inversion, then root position again. All the while focusing on keeping perfect time and perfect intonation, perfect tone quality all the way throughout, which means I'm gonna have to really think about my embouchure, my air, everything that's going on. I put the metronome on quarter note equals 60. I'm gonna play slurred, even eighth notes on these arpeggios. 1, 2, 3. So I'm focusing on my breath support, having enough air to go through the entire thing, just like that original long tone, but I'm also adding in a harmonic device. I'm playing a major triad, I'm focusing on time. I put the quarter note at 60, I played straight even eighth notes. I'm focused on my articulation. You have to adjust. Doing those leaps without articulating is really difficult. So that's another thing to work on. When you do all these things at once, I know it's tough at first. That's why you can even make it simpler. Just do what I'm gonna show you next with the scale, but you can do some simpler ones in the beginning if you don't think you or your student can handle it. But I think this is a really great way because you build them up together. You're not just focusing on one and just focusing on the other. And I think that's really important when learning to play music. Next thing we're gonna look at is stamina. And that's stamina with your embouchure and stamina with your air. How long can we play a good sound for while playing music, not just holding one note? Once again, any of these exercises, the arpeggios, this one, especially the melody, you can stop on one note or have your teacher stop one note or have your student, if you're a teacher, stop them on one single note, check the tuner where they are at the beginning of that note. If the beginning of the note is out of tune, they're not actually hitting it correctly because, yes, even when you're playing fast lines, fast scales, anything, every single note needs to be in tune, not just the held out notes. So for this one, we're gonna take the metronome at 60 again, play straight even eighth notes again, but we're just gonna play on saxophone a G major scale, slurred, up and down as long as we can with a good sound, focusing on staying in time, not articulating at all, just slurring everything and playing with a good quality sound with enough embouchure and breath support to have a good sound throughout. I'll just do a short example here. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Now, you might be thinking, Dave, you're talking that long tones are overrated and you're basically doing the same thing. Well, that's why long tones in the traditional sense of playing one note by itself with no context is overrated to me. It really is. And you know what? Let me know in the comments that I'm an idiot and I don't know anything, and you know what? That's fine. That's totally cool. So if you wanted to say I'm also doing long tones, then fine. I've never worked on long tones in the traditional sense ever. But I've worked on my sound a whole lot. Like I said in the beginning, I've worked on my sound more than any other thing. And I take pride in my sound over any other thing that I do on the saxophone. So I asked a whole bunch of saxophonists, both students and older musicians as well. And on average, they can hold a single note about 10 seconds longer than they can playing a scale up and down. So, one of the reasons might be, you need more air to play higher notes or lower notes, and they're using more air that way than a single tone. But I think a lot of it also has to do with the focus of it, and a lot of it is mental focus. You have to put your mind in a different mindset when you're playing notes. You have to be also conscious of what's going on until you can get far enough down the road where you don't even think about your sound at all and you unconsciously play with a good, controlled, clear sound the entire time. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is just tone quality in general and how to get a better sound. You know, people say you do long tones, you'll get a better tone. Well, once again, what are you aiming for? What is your goal when playing a long tone or whatever? Yeah, you want to get these, like the exercises I showed you, more embouchure support, more breath support, more focus of that long support and having a really good sound all the way through. But to me, having a good quality sound is about taking the sound that you have in your head, your ideal sound, and getting it out through your instrument. If you don't have an ideal sound in your head, you're probably not going to be able to get it through your instrument. If you're just picking up the instrument and blowing and saying, well, I hope the sound is good based on the gear that I have because Dick Oates used this mouthpiece setup or John Coltrane played with this horn, I'm going to sound like that. You're probably not going to sound like them. There's all these videos of Chris Potter playing other people's horns. There's a really good one by Bob Reynolds, and he sounds like Chris Potter on all the horns. Yeah, there might be super slight details, like one rings a little bit more than the other, but his tone is his own. So if you don't have the sound in your head, it's not going to come out through the horn, and I firmly believe that. Now, does that mean you always have to have the sound in your head at all times? No, I didn't always know what I wanted to sound like. But there's this quote by Michael Brecker that I really like, and someone asked him, I think one time, they said, hey man, I really want to sound like you, so I listen to all your records and I listen to all your licks and I want to play just like you. And he goes, if you want to play like me, you want to sound like me, listen to the people that I listen to. And I really believe that. Your sound is a combination of everything that you've listened to, everything that you enjoy, and you pick little bits from each one and you combine them into your own sound. So, you might like the way Coltrane plays his palm key notes, and you might like the way Dexter Gordon plays in the middle range, and you might like the way Sonny Rollins plays his low end. I'm, obviously talking tenor players here. And then in your head, you kind of have an idea of each of those sounds, and you can start really getting to that point. Now, yes, are there going to be physical things that you need to do to change to get towards those, adjusting your embouchure, doing these things? Yeah, little by little by little by little, but it's not something that you can just sit there and say, I'm going to drop my jaw to sound like Kenny Garrett. It's more of, little tiny things, just like an accent when you're speaking. It's not necessarily a giant mouth thing. It's just kind of the way you nuance it, or the way you kind of really approach the beginning or the end of the note, or how much air you put in, or how much vibrato you put on it. Really depends on how much you've really studied their sounds. If you've studied their sounds on good quality recordings over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and immerse yourself into those sounds, they will start to come out in your playing. So many times, someone will say to me, oh man, you must have been transcribing a lot of blank, or you must have been listening to a lot of blank. Or they'll say it about my students. I recently posted a couple videos with my student Simon. They're like, oh man, he sounds like you, or he sounds like Dick Oates, or he's got that Kenny Garrett vibe going on. And these are all valid things because he's heard me play a lot. He's listened to a lot of Oates, listened to a lot of Kenny Garrett. It's only natural for this to come out in your playing. I know I'm rambling on about this, but it really means a lot to me, and sound is such a personal thing. Listen to the people that you want to listen to. Take the things that you like from each of them to make your own sound and your own voice through the instrument. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Hope this cleared up some questions you guys had for me, especially when I said in the Q&A that I don't do long tones. I got a bunch of messages, and so hopefully you now see what I do, and you can take something from it, and I appreciate it. And if everything I've said is wrong today and I'm leading people in the wrong direction, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know if I helped you as well, if I actually showed you something that you didn't think of before. That's what I'm really trying to do. And the great thing about YouTube and all these free tutorials that you're getting is you can, once again, pick and choose what you like and incorporate it into your own playing. And even if you only get a little bit out of this, or even if I only help a couple people out there, well, then it was worth it, and I really appreciate it. Be sure to browse my channel. I have new videos coming out every week. I have a whole bunch of good ones coming out in the next 2 weeks especially, so really stay tuned. Subscribe to be notified about all those videos. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.